Hi, welcome to Siofras Magic Alcove. I'm Ian and I want to talk today about meditation. So meditation is kind of a subject we haven't touched on directly like this before. I'm going to go over it, what it is, what we mean when we say that, what some of the steps and things are, what tips and tricks that will help. I think this is almost you might say, as a missing chapter out of Bardon's book, because I think it would have been really helpful. He covered lots of subjects in that book, and they're valid, but and he had a lot of stuff to cover, but he didn't do any basics about meditation for the real beginner who's just starting out. Most people think of meditation as sitting down and quieting your mind, and that's not incorrect at all. But there's a vast amount of stuff associated with that. And a lot of people have a lot of trouble with Bardon's first chapter, just managing to succeed at that, because sitting down and making your mind vacant for 10 minutes is not easy for everybody. In fact, for some people like myself, it can be extremely difficult. So when we say meditation, it can include lots of other things like concentration exercises and stuff, and that's the way I use it in general. And specifically, meditation means focusing on something so thoroughly that you reach an unbroken flow of knowledge in that object. And this is where you get some clairvoyant aspects. If you do it well enough that you become the object, you can learn things about it directly by being it. And that's just, sorry, a little off the subject, I guess, of meditation specifically. But to achieve that unbroken flow of knowledge in an object isn't necessarily that easy either. And Bardon says in his first step to achieve 10 minutes of total silence, and also to concentrate on a single object or thought for a longer time period, 10 minutes again, without any thoughts intruding or interfering with it. And again, that's not as easy as it seems, because when you go to meditate and you go to do something like this, lots of things can be bound up with that. One of them, of course, is how much meditation you've practiced. You'll have to excuse me, I'm a little thrown off and having difficulty pronouncing some letters since my dentures broke and I'm without them for a while. But I wanted to get this video in before we went on our little vacation. So, pardon that. A lot of times what happens to people is they sit and they try to meditate, and let's say, let's start with saying you're trying to concentrate on an object, which is one of Bardon's first exercises. We'll say it's that kind of a meditation. You're just trying to concentrate on and focus on this object. You find, as you're trying to do that you have all these things come up. You're trying to just focus on this object and have all other thoughts out of your mind. You're not supposed to be thinking about anything else. So, and when you're focusing on this object, say you're not supposed to be thinking. So you're focusing on the object, but you're not thinking this is a rock. You're just experiencing its rockness, or kind of rock or crystal or whatever we'll say we're focusing on. The idea is to experience its rockness to the point you learn things about it and know things about it from that. And the first problem is you have an itch, and it keeps itching and itching, and it won't go away. And when you finally get that taken care of, you have all these other things come up in your mind that start concerning you about the day, what you've got to do next, how much time you're taking. Is this just a waste of time sitting here doing nothing, focusing on this thing? Your body will get more and more uncomfortable. So you try to put yourself in a comfortable position, and then that works for a while until you start getting sleepier and sleepier and sleepier. So not only your body is one of the major hindrances of you focusing your mind like you want, potentially. Your emotions, if something happened, they'll come up and you'll keep thinking about them instead of what you're trying to focus on. So that's another potential that needs to be dealt with. And then you're sitting there, and the thoughts itself will be another thing you have to deal with. Thoughts keep popping up. They're very pernicious in most cases. In my case, you're trying to focus, and thoughts keep popping up about different things, about unrelated things, about, well, not unrelated things to what you're trying to meditate on, usually related to your day or things you need to do or something like that. And so you have all these obstacles that make it more difficult, including whether you can actually focus well enough, even excluding all the obstacles. If you get rid of those, if you can stay focused on one thing solidly for that long without your brain getting tired, and concentration exercises and things will make your brain tired. Works just like your muscles and your body. If you overdo it with your brain, you end up with a headache. I can vouch for having experienced that many, many times as I'm trying to bring my concentration up and give myself a headache. And then the only thing you can really do is you have to wait long enough for your brain to recover, just like a sore muscle, till your headache goes away and everything's comfortable again before you can start back in your meditation. So all these things are difficult, part of the difficulties with meditation. We won't go into the rewards yet, which are a subject for another entire video. But the unbroken flow of knowledge in an object is one of them, because you can, for sure, assuming you can meditate that well and you have some clairvoyant abilities opening up, then you can really get knowledge of objects and things that you didn't know about, that you haven't read about. And in many of my cases, looking it up afterwards on the internet, I've been able to verify a number of these things. So you can definitely get information that way if your concentration and your clair abilities reach that point. So what can you do about all these? Well, the main thing is you're going to have to learn some self-control to get control over these things before you can get any real results. And this goes for really for all aspects of magic, etc. And one big secret to having magical power is really having self-control. And it's more esoteric than it sounds on the surface, because you'll get an actual energy building up from these things that will make your life better slowly, but it takes a while, and self-abnegation of different sorts is one way to attain that. But I don't support any severe austerities or, be careful with your body. Don't overdo it. Don't hurt it. I'm all for getting strong mentally and emotionally and stuff through meditations. Just don't hurt yourself because you can, just as if you physically overworked and pulled a back muscle or something. So one of the things you can do to start with that will help a lot when you're trying to accomplish something like this is to hopefully have a place to meditate, a defined place, so that you're always going to meditate there as much as you can whenever you meditate. These things don't have to be incredibly strict, but having every time you repeat your meditation, if you do it in the same place, in addition to other aspects, that will be a comfort to your body and your mind. And just by being in that place, especially if it's used, if you have a little spot you can use only for meditation, and when you go and sit there or sit down there or whatever, that your body knows it's time to meditate, and it will start preparing things, because as much as meditation is mental, it's also physical. These things over a period of time result in changes in blood chemistry and different aspects of your body that are adapting to you sitting and meditating and using those parts of your brain, and those abilities will grow within you as you do it. And having a place that you return to that's a constant commonplace will make it easier and easier every time you do it. Just being at that same place will help make it a little bit easier and faster to get into your meditation. And the next important thing is to do it at the same time of day every day if you can, for basically the same reasons. Your body gets in a cycle and a rhythm. Since you have to actually go through physiological changes, you're all tied together. If you begin meditating, your body will go through certain physiological changes, preparing, getting calmer. And those physiological changes take up a certain amount of time. And so if you have a set time, you do them every day. And personally, I recommend twice a day. I do mine once in the morning and once in the evening before bed, but before I'm too sleepy. And another thing that can also help is if you can time it so it's not just after having eaten, because that pulls blood flow down to your stomach and makes it more difficult to meditate. And in a lot of people, it induces sleepiness, so that makes it more difficult. So doing those things by themselves can help a lot and be a good start towards it. I would recommend having a defined amount of time you spend meditating. Some individuals who haven't done it on a schedule prefer not to have it timed. But what I find is, in my case, if I'm doing it on a regular basis and I don't have it timed, I end up overdoing it. I end up having a headache, getting sick, something like that. So if you're really serious about it, you'll find you need to make a firm limit, because all of these things, if you're performing them properly, will normally be tiring to you at first until you get used to doing them. So the same time of day helps. And again, it helps your body get in that cycle, into that rhythm, same time of day, same place. Okay, hopefully a place that's reasonably quiet. Other kinds of things can come up too, which can be puzzling to deal with until you start actually spending some time doing this and seeing what it's like. You don't exactly know all the obstacles that can come about. For example, Bardon in his first chapter, when he talks about the aspect of meditating on a concept or idea, it's like, well, what does he mean, a concept or idea? What exactly do you picture? Is it a picture? You know, a concept, kind of a concept. The Earth floats in space. Maybe that could be used as kind of a picture or an idea. How do you concretize that down to think of it and concentrate on it without thinking? Because the goal is not to think about it, it's to hold it steady. So a concept idea is the guru a concept? Could be a person. And honestly, doing those exercises, by the way, I recommend picking a concept or idea that is something that you like, that you take pleasure in, because that will make it easier to focus, and also hopefully that has a holy goal, or a goal of pulling something positive into your life or making a positive change in you. These are the types of things I would emphasize focusing on for these exercises. If you want a concept, find a good one that makes you feel good, that's pleasant, and is a positive concept, because you'll only influence yourself for the better by making this the concept of things you meditate on. Make it something nice, although I know some magicians and people would disagree with that. Like Crowley always suggested that if you focus on something, it not be something like that, because then you might become obsessed by thinking, I'm God's favorite, or that type of thing, if you get a success, and the ego can get in there. So I'm of the opinion to influence yourself positively and don't have a big ego. These things can go two ways. Having an experience of divinity can give you a huge ego. It certainly can. Or it can make you entirely humble to realize what's really out there compared to this individual, this person. And to take it up another level, you are that. But at the same time, that makes you equal to everything and everybody. You aren't above them, maybe throughout them. And these are concepts which probably won't make sense to people who haven't studied the subject of enlightenment or yoga and meditation that much. So I apologize for that. But the idea was it's not, for all people, it's not as simple as it sounds. I think for a lot of the people who have trouble with Bardon's work, if they make a deal of this, follow Bardon's instructions, of course, but be consistent as you can about the meditations and things and the concentrations, and don't try to force them too hard, because it will stress you out. It will stress your body out. And these things, not only do people have different mental capabilities to start with, that have to be worked on, but also we all have different bodies, and acquiring these abilities at this point when you live here on earth acquires your body to adapt and to change, meaning it gets into cycles. Your body uses and generates your neurochemicals in different ways and different amounts according to what you're doing. Your body, it's all one living organism that you need to be in harmony with. And so unless you happen to be lucky enough to be at the point where you can just do these things from starting from where you're at, which means you built them up in the past, a lot of us, and speaking for myself, it takes a lot of time for the changes to come through enough to be effective. So I've been very slow at accomplishing concentration exercises despite amount of effort put into them. So I guess that's probably enough to say about that for right now. There is a whole universe of things to meditate on. There are a whole universe full of results that can be attained. And Zen, I have a close feeling for, because I like the way they approach things. And the Zen Satori comes largely through meditation, and that's an experience again of there's a Zen saying that before you're enlightened you chop wood and carry water, and after you become enlightened you chop wood and carry water, but you're not the same, because you do it with a totally new perspective, and that it relates to an event called Satori, in which you have a realization about the relationship of yourself to the universe, and it's a feeling, and it sets in, and then you are that. And in Zen school, Satori is often sudden, and yet takes time to assimilate to the point where you can hold your Zen and be in that state all the time. So it still requires practice even after that. And it is also considered very important in the Yoga Sutras and yogic stuff, where the focus and the meditation are one of the means to what's called Samadhi. And that's the focus of union with an object or a god, goddess. And here is where Crowley differs from the idea. It says you maybe should focus on something mundane in a lot of cases, but I disagree with that notion. But a god or a goddess, and you experience that, and it is like the Satori in a way. It destroys your perception, your internal experience of the universe, your matrix isn't quite the right word, but it's like everything, like your imaginary and false perception of the universe, which you have been living in without knowing it, shatters, and you get a glimpse of the reality behind it. So it's not I don't want to make it sound like it's a negative thing by any means, because it's dropping the illusions that make up your world, ones you perhaps were not even aware of, things that have been conditioned in by society and by existence from your birth. That may be falsehoods that were acted on automatically. I'm sorry, I'm getting deeper into a particular aspect of meditation than I wanted, but yeah, the Samadhi, Nirvikalpa Samadhi, there are all kinds of different results and mystical states that can result from these things. Even just those two, from silencing your mind completely, because that's the only way you can see things clearly, but it's not being inert like a stone. Otherwise, a stone would be the perfect yoga meditator. It's an alert stillness, a stillness with awareness of everything. Again, it's the Tao, a stillness in movement. I guess that's probably all that's going to be helpful, so I should probably shut up there because I keep going off onto the more mystical aspects. But practically speaking, you can get those things down. Oh, and I wanted to mention a little bit about body position. Okay, so one of the things you can do to help with the body being uncomfortable and making you move around and such, Bardon doesn't get into until I think he starts mentioning the second chapter or maybe the third, but that is a specified body position. So if when you meditate, you sit in a specific bodily position, and it should be differing slightly somehow from a normal position, like if you decided to use a sitting position for meditating, which many people do. It should be slightly different from your normal sitting position and should introduce just enough tension to your body that you can that it will keep you awake and keep you alert, so you have just a little bit of tension, but a small enough amount of tension that you can relax thoroughly and completely and reach another mystical state associated with the body. And doing this, a specific position is called an asana. So for sitting like this, one of the easiest ones is simply to sit up straight, hands flat on your knees, and hold your knees together and keep your back straight. That's one of the simplest ones. And if you're going to use that, I recommend starting by practicing it by itself, not trying to meditate in it, but becoming one with your body, learning it, relaxing. And the trick is to relax as much as possible without slumping. You're not tense, your shoulders are down, your chin is relaxed, hands are relaxed, legs are relaxed, but your knees are touching. Not hard, just touching. And you'll find over time that this will become easier and easier. And pretty soon, if you do it right, you reach what a Japanese author I've been reading about Zen, I don't recall the name, calls a off sensation, which is where you stop feeling your body entirely. It becomes sort of gone to you, so you get any itches or anything like that, any little discomforts, stop coming through while you're in that meditational state. And so you can reach a point where your body pretty much stops bothering you entirely while you're in meditation. And again, it takes a while. It takes a while to do that. And I might mention also that it's more important to be consistent than to take along than to extend the time, because you'll find if you do this for like a week and say for 15 minutes a day for 7 or 8 days and keep doing it, that over time it can get more and more uncomfortable. Let doing it for that amount of time get more and more uncomfortable, and you just have to stop and take a break for a while. And that's okay. So what I'm saying there again is, don't start by doing a whole bunch of time because it feels comfortable. Make sure it feels comfortable over weeks so that you can achieve your meditation asana solidly for the amount of time you're meditating and not be disturbed by your body at all, and that way your meditations will benefit greatly. So these little type of things can help a lot. Don't overdo learning the asana. With this one I had a real problem for some time with my lower back hurting from doing it. Also, when you're doing the asana, again, you want to be as still as possible. Every little movement is actually going to take more efforts. It's going to potentially strain and injure your muscles. Well, not injure them, but make them a little more tired, hurt a little more. So the more you're squirming, the less comfortable the asana is going to be. So for most comfort, do it for short time periods and consistently over days and things and whatever, so you can get used to it, and that'll be a big help to you in your meditational stuff. So hope everybody can get something out of this. Thank you all for watching. If you all got this far, blessed be. This is Siofras Magic Alcove, and this is Coyote saying have a good one.